Everyone, thank you for inviting me to speak here today. It's a great honor to be flown all the way from Iceland to meet you all. My husband, Stefan Karl Stefansson, was diagnosed in the fall of 2016 with extrahepatic cholangiocarcinoma. There was no support group or info to be found in Iceland in relation to the disease, as only 1 to 3 people per year are diagnosed. The Cholangiocarcinoma Foundation became my best friend, and the groups on Facebook, which probably many of you are members of. People that I found in my initial research in the first days after diagnosis. The devastation of diagnosis, let us talk about that for a second. The initial shock, the blood freezing uncertainty and pain. It is the unsaid that becomes the hardest, the reading between the lines. Health professionals are humans, after all. And there was no mistake I could mistake the tenderness in Stefan's doctors' voices and their worried glances. The patient in question, a 41-year-old man, father of 4 children. His doctors were truly disarmed, having to tell us that Stefan's life would from now on be dramatically altered. I, being somewhat curious and inquisitive by nature, could not stop myself from reading anything I could find on the disease. I was even buying access to research papers written in lingo that I had no comprehension of. This disease is a savage. Research underfunded, study groups flawed because of the scarcity of patients. I know we all share the pain, searching desperately for survivor stories, which I learned quickly are few. Tough shit. Everything I read made me realize that I was stuck in a slow-motion car crash, where I and my family would constantly be colliding with obstacles until Stefan would finally die. My research and relentless questioning to Stefan's doctors, to the point of harassment, was in hindsight nothing but a desperate attempt to prepare for the times to come. I understood long before the doctors proved my intuition to be right that Stefan would die and most likely only live 2 more years, if that. The selfish thoughts crept in even before I could really sense his pain. I was going to be a widow before the age of 50. I would be a single parent. I would have to take care of everything from now on. This is all normal. We feel for ourselves. We strive to survive. It's in our nature to fight obstacles, and we should not punish ourselves for thinking such selfish thoughts. After all, we are the ones who are going to be faced with the consequences. When faced with facts like these, I also learned that there are only 2 roles up for grabs. Excuse the theatrical terminology, but this is the existential fact. You can decide to let the excruciating pain and fear crumble you, drain you of your life force, strength, and might, and turn into a sobbing martyr, a lifeless victim of circumstance, or you can attempt to fight against all odds like the childlike hero, made only of muscle and vigor, who doesn't allow himself to sit down and dwell in the arms of death. The hero that clings on to life at all costs. I chose the latter, and I truly believe that this is fundamentally a choice you have to make, especially when you have young children to tend to. You really have no other choice. You play the hero, and believe me, that is the easier part to play. Stefan was an actor, mostly famed for his part as Robbie Rotten in the kids' show Lazy Town. He was a loved celebrity, and Icelandic newspapers were quickly to pick upon his hospitalization. We jointly decided to speak publicly about his condition. First and foremost, to protect his children from friends and strangers based on muddled hearsay. I cannot describe the outpouring of love and kindness that we received after the initial public statement. It was physically palpable, even though kindness and empathy cannot be measured by science yet. Personally, it was like someone had made me an incredibly beautiful, warm blanket to guard me through the terrifying times that I was living. Stefan and I only told of what we knew, what we feared, and how we intended to survive. The relief of not carrying this burden in secrecy was incredibly powerful. The lightness entered our home again, even if the circumstances were less than ideal. Our children could now speak openly to their friends and their families about their father if they wished to do so. Stefan and I made also the decision to trust our children from the get-go, then aged 8, 9, 15, and 21, to be faced with a harsh truth every step of the way. We let them be fully informed and included. After Stefan's second liver resection, when we knew that this war would not be fought much longer, I sought out assistance with a counselor to tell my children that their father would not grow old and that we would have limited time together. It was a horrible thing to burden them with, but it gave them and us time to come to peace with reality, not to mention that it strengthened our bond. Their devastated faces, their desolate stares, their watering eyes, the pained, silent crying, the stifling sadness that filled the room, the grave look on our older girls, 15 and 21. How long will he be with us, Mom? No one knows, but only probably a few months. The realizing statement of Julia, age 9, Dad will not live to see me when I'm 15, like you, pointing to her older sister. And little Thor, only 8, stuttering in an attempt to be a brave man, I'm just grateful that I have had a dad. Afterwards, driving home, the incredible adaptive children's mind spoke out. Hang on, Mom. Who will take me to Guns N' Roses concert if Dad can't go? You? Can we still go on holiday? Can we have friends over even if he's dying? Mom, does this mean that we will at some point have a new dad? Young children are so closely grounded in their ego that everything becomes about how will this situation affect me? And this should not be repressed, in my opinion, and never should young children be discouraged to tend to themselves first. They cannot take on the burden of worrying about us, adults, and they shouldn't. I saw all of their speculations about their future as positive. They were fully aware, apparently, that though Dad would leave us, they still had a long future ahead of them. With an aid of a counselor, I was also encouraged to keep the children as much in their routine as possible and to encourage them to live and enjoy life like normally. I took the children on short holidays without Stefan to make them realize and learn that we could do things together even when he would be gone. Stefan was not entirely happy about this, but my gut told me that this was of great importance to me and the children. It turned out to be so. I made constant efforts to remind the children that it was okay to be happy, it was okay to laugh, it was okay to throw tantrums, it was okay to fight their siblings. Basically, it was okay to just be and behave like a child, even if death was making himself comfortable in our home. While I do not regret our transparency about Stefan's illness, I do want to share an observation. People's curiosity often outweighs their sensibilities. If you have young children in this situation, you need to guard them from prying adults, or as I call them, disguised grief tourists. People who want to express their sympathy, but end up doing harm. These can be relatives, parents of friends, school staff, or even health professionals. We armed our children with the right to refuse to speak about their parents, about their father, if they didn't feel like it. With responses that put the guilt and the responsibility on the questioning person. We had them exercise and use replies like, "I don't know, ask my mom." "Call my dad. Do you need his number?" And in the case of relentless pestering, "Please do not ask me about this. You hurt me by doing so." This reply pushes even the most eager grief monger away and stops further questioning. I never did hide my tears from my children, and I encouraged them to cry and talk to me with their concerns whenever they felt like it. I also affirmatively stated to them as often as possible that I was okay, even if I was sad, that they didn't need to worry about me, that I would survive this, that I would, of course, stay strong for them, and that we would still do incredible things together as a family, even if Dad would leave us. And just saying those things made me stronger. I guess it's called faking it till you make it. And the more you think it and speak of it, the stronger you get. We are really simple when we're faced with such trials, and our minds can be shaped by our actions and intentions. Being sober was also of great importance to me. I made a conscious decision to let tranquilizers and sleeping pills not enter my life during this often sleepless and worrying times. I have a doctor friend who said to me, "If you can get through this sober, your recovery is going to be a lot easier." And at the time, I just thought, I'll take anything that has the word easier in it. The truth is that there is no shortcut out of this hell. There is no escape ladder. You have to live through it day by day, and with a sober mind, the grieving process starts long before the loved one has passed, and you can come to terms with what lies ahead. As Stefan became more and more ill and his mind less sound due to more heavy medication, it was important to remember never to take his sometimes harsh and irrational behavior to heart. The devastating sadness that the young person who is dying and experiencing is not for us to judge. And we have no means to understand what they're really going through. The dying person will express fear, aggression, euphoria. They'll be unpredictable, judgmental, but they will also show unfathomable gentleness and express gratitude of such magnitude you really don't think you're worthy. My advice to you, please just let it run through you like water. None of this is to be taken personally. It is the dying heart who is speaking and fighting. It was also important to repeat to my children daily in the last weeks that Dad was not himself anymore. And I said to them, if he pains you by saying unkind or harsh words, it's not because he wants to hurt you. It's because he's not longer in control of his mind. To caregivers that are now tending to their loved ones, I want to say a brief word about self-care. You're going to be constantly hearing the phrase, you have to take care of yourself, you mustn't forget yourself, you have to think about yourself first. And yes, you have to take time to meet friends, get out of the house and tend to your health in any way you normally do. But the key factor to my self-healing was taking care of Stefan and the children, to give my ego, my big ego, a long-needed rest. I learned that there is true gratification to be had in devoting your time and strength to taking care of your loved ones, because caretaking gives you a sense of purpose, and isn't that what we're all striving for? Caretaking gives you a much-needed break from yourself. Household chores can keep you sane and cost you a lot less than psychotherapy. I realized that I was privileged to be able to work less and devote my time to caretaking. It was the biggest gift that I have received, because when ultimately that dreaded day came and my loved one was no more, I felt a strange sense of accomplishment and truce with myself, even though I was knee-deep in a puddle of grief. I knew that I had done my best, even if I, or anyone else for that matter, could not have saved his life. Thank you for listening. I'm happy to talk to anyone who would like to chat with me. My email is here. You can see I have the Cholangiocarcinoma tattoo on my middle finger for an obvious reason. I'm happy to share my experience if it can be of help to anybody or that is fighting or dealing with lethal diseases. Thank you very much.